Once in a busy city filled with noise and endless motion, there lived a young man named Samir who could never find peace in his own mind. He was 28 years old. Every day he would wake up tired, even after sleeping. His body would rest, but his mind never stopped working. It was always busy, always running, like a machine that had no off button. Samir worked in an office. He had money. He had friends. He had everything people said would make him happy. But when he sat alone at night, he felt empty. His chest felt tight. His breath felt short. Inside his head, there were 1,000 voices talking at the same time. Voices of worry, voices of doubt, voices that said, "You are not enough. You will fail. You will lose everything." He tried many things to feel better. He watched movies. He scrolled on his phone for hours. He talked to people who did not really listen, but nothing helped. The noise inside him only grew louder. One night, sitting on his balcony under the stars, he whispered to himself, "Is this all there is? Will I feel this way forever?" The next morning, Samir decided to take a different route to work. He walked through a small park he had never noticed before. There, sitting on a bench under a tree, was an old woman. She was feeding birds. Her face was wrinkled, but her eyes were bright. She looked so calm, so present, like time moved slower around her. Samir stopped and watched her. After a few minutes, the old woman looked up and smiled at him. "You look lost, young man," she said softly. Samir felt something break inside him. He sat down next to her and said, "I feel lost. My mind never gives me rest. I do not know how to be happy anymore." The old woman nodded slowly. She did not say anything for a while. Then she handed him a small piece of bread and said, "Feed the birds with me." Samir took the bread. He broke it into tiny pieces and threw them on the ground. The birds came quickly. They hopped around, eating, chirping, living in the moment. Samir watched them closely. He noticed their small movements. He heard their sounds. He felt the cool breeze on his skin. For the first time in months, he was not thinking about yesterday or tomorrow. He was just there. After some time, the old woman spoke again. "Do you see these birds? They do not worry about what happened last week. They do not fear what will come next month. They eat when they are hungry. They sing when they feel like singing. They live in this breath, this heartbeat, this moment. That is their secret." Samir looked at her and asked, "But how can I be like them? I am not a bird. I have responsibilities. I have problems." The old woman smiled. "You do not need to become a bird. You just need to remember something you have forgotten. Life is not happening in your head. It is happening right here, right now. Your thoughts are like clouds in the sky. They come and they go, but the sky remains. You are the sky, not the clouds." She stood up slowly and said, "Come back tomorrow morning. Bring nothing with you except yourself. I will teach you something." Samir did not know why, but he trusted her. The next morning, he came back to the park. The old woman was already there. She was standing barefoot on the grass with her eyes closed. When she opened them, she said, "Today you will learn to walk like you have never walked before." She began walking very slowly across the grass. Each step was careful, mindful, like she was placing her foot on sacred ground. "Feel the earth under your feet," she said. "Feel the air entering your lungs. When a thought comes, do not push it away. Just notice it, like you would notice a leaf falling from a tree. Then let it go and return to your breath." Samir followed her. At first, it felt strange. His mind kept pulling him away. Thoughts came rushing in. Work emails, bills, arguments from the past. But every time, the old woman would gently remind him, Come back to this step. Come back to this breath." Slowly, something shifted. The world became clearer. The colors looked brighter. The sounds felt richer. He could hear the leaves rustling. He could feel his own heartbeat. For a few precious moments, the noise inside his head stopped. It was like someone had turned down the volume of his thoughts. They walked in silence for 20 minutes. When they stopped, Samir felt different, lighter, more awake. He looked at the old woman and said, "What just happened to me?" She smiled. "You came home. You returned to the only place where peace exists, the present moment. Your mind loves to wander into the past and the future. That is where suffering lives. But your body is always here, always now. When you follow your body, when you feel your breath and your steps, your mind has no choice but to follow. And when your mind is here, you find peace." Samir began visiting the old woman every morning. She taught him many things. She taught him to sit in silence without fear. She taught him to listen to the sound of rain without needing it to stop. She taught him that thoughts are not facts. They are just stories the mind tells. She taught him that he did not need to control everything to feel safe. Weeks passed. Samir started to change. He smiled at strangers. He slept deeply. He stopped scrolling his phone late at night. He started noticing small, beautiful things: the way sunlight fell on the floor, the taste of his morning tea, the sound of laughter from children playing. His problems did not disappear, but they no longer controlled him. He learned that peace was not about having a quiet life. It was about having a quiet mind in any life. One morning, when Samir came to the park, the old woman was not there. He waited, but she never came. He asked others in the park if they had seen her. No one knew who he was talking about. It was as if she had never existed. But Samir knew the truth. She had been real. And more importantly, what she taught him was real. He sat on the bench where they first met. He closed his eyes. He breathed deeply. And in that breath, he heard her voice one last time, not from outside, but from within. "You do not need me anymore. You have found what you were looking for. It was always inside you." From that day forward, Samir carried her wisdom everywhere. When life became hard, he would stop and breathe. When his mind became loud, he would return to his body. When fear tried to pull him into the future, he would anchor himself in the now. He became his own teacher. He became his own peace. So remember this: the world will always be noisy. People will always demand things from you. Life will always bring challenges. But inside you, there is a place where silence lives, a place where peace waits patiently. You do not have to search for it in faraway lands. You do not have to wait for the perfect moment. You only have to stop, breathe, and return to now. That is where your power is. That is where your freedom is. That is where you truly live. If this story touched something in your heart, share it with someone who is carrying too much weight in their mind. Subscribe for more stories that awaken the soul. Until we meet again, breathe deeply, live fully, and remember, peace is not something you find, it is something you become.